Okay, I'm in Butlins this week till Friday, and yeah, it was good yesterday. Just made the train, the second train by like as the doors were closing. I literally just went on it. I left 45 minutes to get from Euston to Victoria by bike, and yeah, I only just made it. I didn't realize how slow I would be and how much traffic there was that kind of stops you from cycling at a good speed. But anyway, I enjoyed. There's an ABBA show. Yeah, I've kind of called them Angels of ABBA, but to be honest, I didn't actually listen to their songs. I know I've heard their songs when I was a child and stuff. But yeah, I think the act was very good because it was kind of done how it should be, which is that there's the one lead singer singing blonde, and the others, the band, I think is actually supposed to be more like backing singers, and that's how Butlins did it. Whereas I think the ABBA, how they actually did it, when I think of ABBA, I didn't really follow them, but I always see them as like a band of four people. But I don't think it's really supposed to be that. I think it's supposed to be, one lead singer, a female, and a sort of male partner for some of the songs, and just a group with backing singers for the other. I think that's how it's supposed to be, but because the world was so sexist, it's kind of, I think the overall is that they're all made to look equal. But yeah, I think their songs are really supposed to be how Butlins did it, which was, she was a very good singer and I enjoyed it. There was also Busted downstairs, and I know Busted is it was a tribute act, so not the real one, but I would have. I would have wanted to do both, but it was kind of one or the other. And I chose ABBA because their songs are far more deeply rooted, and I think they've kind of inspired the generation. And I don't know if there was a bunch of people who knew about a female Christ, ABBA would have been a good band that would have probably predicted things like this. So I guess I felt I needed to listen to their songs and listen to the words. And yeah, Thank You for the Music is a very good song, and it kind of makes it clear that, ABBA is where the music is from, and ABBA is actually a code name for God. And I think Angels of ABBA is probably the only thing that I can call them, because their songs are so, like, there's a big range of different topics and stuff. Like the words in it is it's not focused on one thing, but it does seem to um, predict things, the importance of money. I think they had it in Butlins, they had the songs in the wrong order. There was definitely one song which was about the aftermath and, everything being over, and judge getting revenge as well. So that not only that seems to suggest that I'm going to survive and I'm going to get better, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to feel better in 20, 30 years time. But anyway, um, I um, I I have been thinking a lot about R. Kelly because I made a 20-minute video about him, and then I thought, wait, there, I haven't heard about this case. I haven't looked at any of the interviews. I haven't seen anything, so maybe I should do a little bit more research. I did a little bit more research, and I saw again that woman, the wife, and her story, and then I kind of think, okay, I didn't want to post that, so I made another video, and that one didn't record, and then I made a second one, and only half of that played, and stuff. So and then I made it two or three that I did post and did say. So now I'm kind of thinking back over, like, what did I say? What did I hear? There's some things I felt like were really important, but might have been in the videos that didn't make it online. So that's kind of been bothering me. And one of the things that I can't remember if I've said in a video, but it was that when the wife was talking about, the trauma of what she experienced. She said there was a time on a bus where she got beaten, but she didn't go into details about the attack, and I thought that was interesting. She didn't say like how many hits, was it just one hit, was there scarring or bruising, but she actually talked more about going on stage with him straight after, and acting to a bunch of people, acting like everything's fine and that nothing's wrong, when really she's just like, what the fuck, I was just beaten by this guy and now I'm singing with him and acting like nothing's wrong. And I feel like something, her talking about the aftermath is actually real trauma, because that's how trauma is. You have the act, and the act is more of the shock, and you don't necessarily know how bad the shock is. Sometimes people, if they get attacked by dogs, they might remember just feeling in pain, but the attack is actually a blur. The trauma comes after the attack, when you're looking back, when you're recovering, when you're going over your mind. And yeah, and the cases of those women, it bothered me because they they were saying everything in a very different way to how the wife was explained. So the ex-wife would talk about more the after effect of the grief that it actually caused her, whereas these women were more about just the excitement. And it really makes me wonder, after those women had sex with R. Kelly, did any of those women go to their friends and start boasting? Oh, I just slept with a celebrity. That's the thing. Sleeping with someone like sleeping with someone that's ugly or not known or not popular. That's not a nice. That's not really a nice thing because you can't really boast to people. You can't get anything out of just sleeping with a regular normal person who's not famous. But if someone slept with someone who's famous and then afterwards starts bragging to their friends, oh, I slept with a famous person. I can imagine a lot of them might have done this. R. Kelly did sleep with a lot of people. He took advantage of the fact that he was famous and the fact that girls wanted to sleep with him, and he was also quite hot and good looking, and it's masculine, and a lot of girls like that. I think he's more toxic masculinity than anything. And it's he definitely wasn't right because he didn't like try to find out what the girls were like, how old they were, or he didn't really try to find out what they were like, but they didn't try to find out what he was like. There's a balance, and I can't remember if I said this on videos, but it's like been bugging my head, and I need to just say it again if I haven't. That when you sleep with people, there should be a balance, them choosing to sleep with you and you choosing to sleep with them. But I feel like the women that slept with him were doing it only because of his power, his status. And it's nice to sleep with someone who's famous. I know the David Guetta. It took a while from David Guetta, fuck me, I'm famous. And I don't know how serious he takes that. But at the same time, there is this sort of glorified view of having sex with famous, rich, powerful people, and it's nice to have sex with someone that you look up to. And I feel like a lot of the people that he slept with at the time were thinking along those lines. Wow, he's famous. Wow, he's got money. Wow, I'm going to sleep with him. Yay. And then afterwards brag to their friends about it. And then, 5, 6. I don't even know how long these interviews were. It might have been mid 10 years. I mean, this was back in the 90s. So when the world was at a very different stage the world was only just discovering celebrities. The world was only just discovering, I guess, the angels, but they didn't know that they were angels. They just saw them as celebrities and, rich, powerful people. But there's something nice about sleeping with people like that. And I feel like because he did take advantage of his fame, everything's just swung. Everything, the world has swung and decided, well, we're gonna help your victims. We're gonna call them victims. We're gonna say they're innocent victims who were, deceived by you. And what? He didn't give himself all this power. He didn't give himself all this fame. He got this fame through people loving his music and loving him, or loving his image and loving his vibe. And therefore, if you see things from that perspective, you have to actually see the victims as being, are they victims? Like, they liked his image, they liked his look, they liked everything about him. And okay, maybe they got drunk and had one night stands, but the number of people that get drunk and have one night stands, with complete strangers is high. And having a one night stand with a complete stranger is completely different to having a one night stand with a celebrity who you know about, who you look up to. If you sleep with someone like R. Kelly, you can brag to your friends, oh, look, he chose me over others. I mean, technically the reality is he'd probably choose anyone who wants to sleep with him, or, he has, but it's just, yeah, I just feel like when it comes to his story, I feel like it's bad what he did to his wife. I feel like she did go through abuse. But then again, she didn't actually have as much. When I think about her, I do feel like my higher self shows me the pictures of battered women and abuse and stuff, and just thinking, I feel a connection. I feel a similarity, but that didn't actually happen to her. These people, these women who are getting attacked by their husbands, partners, this actually happened to them, and you've got the real proof of all the victims that go through this. And I think there are a lot of people that would go through domestic abuse and violence, and they might link their cases to R. Kelly's ex-partner and see a similarity, and because they see a similarity, they might think that, oh, it's so much worse than what it was bad. But it's for her to say how bad it was, and I feel like she would be more honest than a lot of the others. And yeah, I just needed to say that because that's strongly how strongly how I feel. Like I don't feel sympathy for them, but I feel like it's an example of how people don't respect the fact that real trauma happens, and that sometimes rape with is a really terrible thing. And that's just brought another question. Okay, I'll make another video actually. But oh, maybe I should get them out. All right. My mum showed me this video when we went to breakfast, and it's all wet now. It was raining. But yeah, there's this case of this guy, man jailed for 17 years after being wrongly convicted of rape. He says he now is broke and living in a tent in Spain. The tent being Seville, which is where I was only 2 weeks ago. And I feel very, very sorry for him. Like, I don't know the story. Andrew Malkinson, it sounds like. But yeah, he's 57 years now. But according to the story, a woman was raped and said it was him, gave a testimony, and he got let out after 17 years because they realized that it wasn't the guy, and that the evidence was false. I don't really know the exact story. You have to look online. But I've been thinking about this for the last 2 hours, and I feel so sorry for him. He was wrongly convicted, going to 17 years in jail, and for the last 2 years he's been living in a tent in Seville, which is where I just was, because he hates England. He hates the jury system. He thinks that it's completely unfair. He was wrongly convicted for rape. Like, I don't even know if this story is true, because I feel like I can't trust the media and what they say, because there's so much lies going on around the celebrities that maybe this is just a lie. But if this is the truth, and it's sad how he still hasn't got any compensation. So you've locked him up for 17 years, treated him like an animal, taken away his freedom for nothing. This woman who has wrongly accused him, her attack obviously wasn't very long, because she couldn't even remember what he looked like. She's decided to choose someone else as being the perpetrator of that crime, when really it wasn't. And then it's just brought up so many more questions. The justice system is supposed to be about getting justice. Now, if someone is raped for 35 minutes or however long, I don't know the story. I don't know how long the attack was or something, but she obviously couldn't remember what he looked like. So has put blame onto someone that's innocent, or innocent of that crime. And, it's just, if you ask 100 people, what would you rather? Have a 35-minute attack, rape by a stranger, or go to jail for 17 years? 17 years. Apparently he could have got out after 9 years, if he's declared himself if he declared himself to be guilty. But he wasn't guilty, and he was innocent, and therefore he remained that I'm innocent, I didn't do this. So he got extra 5 years because he didn't want to confess to being guilty when he wasn't. And I stand by him, and I think that's a very good strength, to spend 5 whole years in jail because you maintain that you are innocent. I know there's a lot of people that could take advantage of this, because they don't want the credibility, or they don't want to admit that they've done something wrong. But yeah, just because someone doesn't want to admit that they've done something wrong, that doesn't mean that that's evidence that they're just a worse person than what they are. I mean, maybe they generally are innocent. So it's a terrible story. It's terrible that it's been another 2 years and he still has not got. Well, no, they're saying that it could be another 2 years from this point. That might be another 2 years to wait before he's going to get any kind of money compensation, which is terrible. And if you ask the jury, what would you rather, 35 minutes of rape or 17 years have your freedom taken away, locked in a cell, given crappy food, not allowed to be going on holidays, not allowed to see your family or your parents, or just to lose your life, not just to lose your life, but to lose your life to daily suffering for 17 years because of a 35-minute crime that you committed? I mean, if anyone would choose, to rather spend 17 years and get a 13-minute attack, then they're insane. But the fact that no one would choose the 17 years in prison over a 35-minute attack, I don't know how bad the attack was, but that's not justice. This is taking finding, even if he had have committed a rape, even if he had have raped someone, half an hour, whatever, tied them up, blindfolded them, raped them. It's horrible. It's a horrible, horrible attack. But 17 years. Do you know how much suffering a person would suffer for when in prison for 17 years? I think there's so many people that, if they committed something like that, the first year, I deserve this. I hate, I was a bad person. I did wrong. The second year, okay, I still deserve it. That person's probably still grieving, and I'm a very bad person. The third year, okay, that person is still grieving, and I'm a really bad person. And then the fourth year, it's kind of like, you know what? I feel sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for that person. I feel sorry for me. Why? Because it's been 4 whole years. How many? 365 days in a year, and for every one of those days, suffering day, suffering day, suffering day, suffering for 1,000 or 2,000 days, I'm going to suffer for 35 minutes of suffering that I cause on someone else. I mean, justice should be about looking at a crime, looking at the extent of the crime, looking at the suffering that that woman would have gone through. If that woman was a prostitute who was always sleeping with people, and then a client came, slept with them, and then didn't pay, technically that is rape, but it's less of a crime because they kind of used to sex, and in a way they've put themselves in that position. But and if a woman has like been coming on to a guy all evening, and then it turns into a rape, you don't know this situation. But I feel like the justice system is definitely not about justice. It's about seeing what the crime is, lumping it in a category, and then giving it an extremely unfair or unjustified sentence. I mean, how is 17 years of night and day suffering justified for 35 minutes of sex that wasn't consented? I mean, it's a crime. Putting a person in jail for 17 years is a crime. Now, I bet that there are a lot of people in jail right now that think that, okay, I did wrong and I did a very bad thing, but I am still suffering and that's how I feel. At the beginning, okay, I'm God. I made humans. I caused a huge amount of suffering by turning humans into animals, and the confusion of some people still acting like animals versus some people that want to act more mature. And there's this big fight over the people that want to be more animalistic versus the people that are trying to be better, only they don't really know how, because they're getting confused by the animals when they sometimes when the animal people are looking nice and doing things right, they get inspired and copy them, and then sometimes they think, no, this isn't right, and I want to change. A few hundred years ago, it would have been completely normal to marry a 15-year-old. Now you're jailed in life for it. And well, if you're someone who was living 100 years ago, you die and you come back to life again, you might still want to play out the rules that you played out 100 years ago when it was fine to marry 15-year-olds. So I feel like maybe that's another thing of why R. Kelly didn't feel that it mattered to find out what age they was, because maybe 100 years ago he had another life. I don't know about his in-between lives. I believe that I remember him having a life as during the pyramids, but he had more lives, and during this time, having sex with a 15-year-old would have been considered completely normal. And so there's, especially in the 90s as well, there was loads of people that had this vibe that women were just possessions. There was so much around it, and rape is bad. Rape is very bad, but 100, 200 years ago, it was considered normal, and therefore there's this change now. It's not considered normal, but to take someone who has been convicted, like a lot of rapes don't even go to court, they don't even get convictions, which is bad. Everyone deserves a conviction, but when you do convict them, you think 17 years for a 35-minute attack is justified? That's not justice. This is injustice. This is taking people that have done crimes and then doing a crime on them. That's 100 times worse. Now, if they are suffering and they feel like, I've changed, I'm not like that, I'm different, but I'm still being made to suffer every day by this justice system, all they're going to do is hate the justice system, hate the people involved. They're going to be thinking about the people who put them in this position. They're going to be thinking about the courts that they've gone through. If you're a jury person, this is just an experience for you. This doesn't mean anything to you. But if you're a criminal in prison, that trial means everything to you. That trial is going to be going round and round and round, and you're going to be calling for, karma. You're going to be calling for karma on the people that have put you in this situation, the people that are making you suffer night and day, every day, for day after day, year after year after year. And okay, maybe you were a bad person, maybe you did do something wrong, and maybe you have learned your lesson, but you're still suffering. You're still being treated like a criminal, even though you don't feel it inside. And you know, and that's what this case says to me. Whether he did the crime or not, even if he did do the crime, how is a rape attack where the rapist, the victim doesn't even remember what the person looks like, because she's obviously got it wrong, but maybe if it was right, and if it was the guy, how is that justice? How is such a small crime in comparison to locking someone, taking their freedom away, and making them suffer every single day for 17 years, and plus the tax money that goes into looking after these people when they should be, doing. I know there are jobs in jails and stuff, but you really do take you make prisoners suffer so much, and if they're only suffering because of a mistake that took them 30 minutes to make, how is a 30-minute really terrible mistake, how is punishing them for 20 or a long time, how is that justified? It's not. The karma they are feeling is gathering up, and it's going to be attacking the people who put them there. It's going to be attacking the people in the justice system. So you better watch out. If you're in the justice system, if you're responsible for locking people up, you're a murderer, basically. You're a torturer. If you're in the justice system and you're putting people in prison for unjustified reasons, or unjustified lengths of time, should I say, not just, a lot of it is justice, but if it's way more suffering than what the person caused on others, then you are actually just causing more suffering, and that karma is going to come back on you, and that's a warning to people who lock people up.